Okay, we just got back from our family vacation, which
Yeah.
was classic Disney World, but we also did Universal Studios, and we've been planning this trip for a long time.
Really long time.
Here are our top 10 takeaways on our family vacation. This is the Balanced Family Podcast with Ben.
And Jessica, there's a lot to balance when you have a family. Marriage, kids, health, career, while you're trying to balance all the opinions out there on how to do things right.
Today, we'll cut through the noise, tackle hard questions, and share stories as we try to get to the heart of the things that really matter. Okay, first off, this type of trip is not for like the regulars. Like, there are people that go to Disney like all the time.
Yeah.
And
They live in
especially if
Florida.
you live closer.
Yeah.
I know like when we were there, I just met a lot of locals that they have like season passes and they go a lot, and it's not as much of a big deal. But from where we're from, like in Arkansas and kind of more into the Midwest, like it's a long way away, and people will plan like a big epic trip and maybe just go like once or twice, like ever, for their family. So we have 10 takeaways that from us planning and doing this trip. And so it's kind of more relevant for people like us that don't picture themselves going to Orlando all the time and doing that. And I know there's probably like some Disney World nerds like listening to this are going to like know way more about this stuff than we do.
We're definitely not Disney influencers.
Yeah. But we did learn some things. And so that's just a disclaimer. We're not trying to say like, oh, we're like, this is not a travel blog where we're going to give you all the tips and tricks. But there were some cool things that we learned from the trip. So let's get started.
Yeah. So we actually originally planned on doing Disney it was before COVID.
Yeah.
We were planning a big trip around, was it Christmas? I think it was Christmas
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
We had already booked a Vrbo. Our kids were, let's see here, our youngest would have been 2 years old.
Yeah.
So 2, 4, 6 would have been the ages.
Yeah.
And yeah, we were planning on doing it, and then COVID hit, and like half the park was closed. And so we decided to postpone kind of indefinitely. And the other thing too, we were going to be originally, and we did with this trip too, we were going with my parents in particular. So this was going to be kind of like a bucket list trip for the both of us. And we were really excited about it. So we had to postpone it. That was honestly kind of disappointing, but ended up being actually, we think, better.
Yeah. Yeah.
For a lot of reasons.
And which is one of the takeaways we'll get to in the list.
Yeah.
But it was crazy when I think about just that whole time period. I mean, we had because you really have to plan pretty far out to like do it right. And I thought we made a good move because we just didn't even know. If you remember back in COVID, I mean, there was so many unknowns. And you just didn't know what the future held. And so to try to put down even more money and plan and stuff just didn't feel right. And I'm glad we postponed it.
For sure.
So let's go over our itinerary because what we did, I don't necessarily recommend.
No.
But it was, and I'll explain why it was possible, but just to like give people like a 1 week itinerary, we took direct flights on our travel days. We stayed 7 nights, and we did 5 parks in 6 days, which was a lot.
It was a lot.
And not just like visited the parks. I mean, we like did the parks as much as we could. Of course, there's so much in those parks you can't do it all in one day. But we did. We had planned from the get-go that we wanted to see Disney World and Universal Studios. And on a side note, you and I have been to both of those places. Wait, have you been to Universal growing up? Or when you were younger?
Yes.
I know you've been to Disney.
Yes.
Yes. So, and we have both been.
Now I'm questioning if we went there. I went to Disney a lot when I was on the Palm Squad in high school. We actually were really good, and we competed in Orlando every February. And so we would get to go to Hollywood Studios. We went to Magic Kingdom. We got to go, and basically like they would shut down a park for us, and all the Palm girls would go and have a blast. So I went a lot when I was in high school, every time we went to Orlando. But I actually don't think that we went to Universal. So I think that was my first time.
So maybe that was your first time. Okay. Well, I'd been to both. And so I'd already had a kind of a feel for all the parks. And you had been to most of the Disney parks. So like you had a feel for it. That really helped. Anyway, so the reason we wanted to go to both Disney and Universal is because our kids are older and they're big Harry Potter fans.
Which is why I'm wearing my shirt. If you are on camera, you can see I'm wearing my shirt. It says Crookshanks, and it's
Pretty cool shirt.
It's really cool. And
Good thrift store find, right?
No, I ordered it off Amazon.
Oh, a very deliberate order there.
Yes.
Okay. Well, anyway, so back to our itinerary. We did, first day was Magic Kingdom. Second day was Hollywood Studios. Third day we rested at the resort, right? Didn't we do that? Yeah, the third day we rested at the resort. Thursday we did
Epic Universe.
Epic Universe. So here's what's crazy. We got really lucky and we had planned to go to Universal. And then like right about the time we were about to start buying tickets, they announced a new park was opening, Epic Universe, which is part of Universal Studios. And we were just like, dude, that's amazing. When's it opening? A week before we were planning to go. So we actually were able to score some tickets to that within a week of it opening, which is super cool. So we got to be some of the first to visit it. We did Epic Universe on Thursday.
Islands of Adventure.
Islands of Adventure on Friday. And then the OG Universal Studios on Saturday. And then we flew home on Sunday, another direct flight. So it was jam-packed, highly efficient, wore us out completely. And now we'll get into some of our top 10 takeaways from that we planned. So number one, I would just say there's no like wrong way to do Disney or Universal Studios or Orlando or whatever. You have like so many options. And I've been to Orlando multiple times where you stay in like a Vrbo. And the Vrbo game in Orlando is so good. There's so many awesome houses you can rent. Like almost all of them will have like a pool and a hot tub and a game room. I mean, it's like a really good Vrbo competition down there. And you can affordably get like really good places to stay that I know just from experience booking Vrbos that say like beach towns, you like wouldn't get near as much space. So that is one way to do it. And that allows you to visit whatever you want, whenever you want, meaning you could go to Disney and Universal versus you have options like staying at a Disney or Universal resort, but you're kind of tied down to those parks, which there's pros and cons to that. But anyway, there's also, you know, we did a week-long trip. I've talked to a lot of people that do like weekend trips, and they might, especially if your city has a lot of direct flights, you fly down there, hit one park or two parks, fly home, a lot more affordable. And I know the people that will do that like more regularly than us, like trying to jam pack everything.
We basically tried to make it to where we would never have, we would have no regrets and we would never have to go back.
Yes.
That was our goal.
Yeah.
So.
And I love theme parks. I would love to go back, but we wanted to plan it as if we may not get to do that.
Well, and I this is definitely not my top like choice.
Exactly.
In time spent
right
personally. And so, yeah.
And everybody, so that was kind of like the compromise. Yeah, it's like, we'll go, but we'll go hardcore that if we never get to go back, not a big deal. All right, let's talk about takeaway number 2. And that is age is everything, meaning the ages of your kids.
Yeah.
Why don't you share about your thoughts on that?
I really think that we lucked out in not going when our kids were 2, 4, and 6, because just looking at other families that had especially 2-year-olds and 4-year-olds at the parks, I was like, OMG. Yeah. I'm so glad. So as of this trip in 2025, our youngest is almost 7. So that's a huge difference. Mm-hmm. And we were able to hit it hard all day after day, stay out late, no naps,
minimal whining.
Yeah. I mean, they were tired for sure. It was pretty hot. We had a really extra large stroller, which was really helpful. So, you know, a few, our 2 youngers could kind of go in and out of the stroller and get some relief. But, man, if you are wanting to do like what we did and have like a week-long trip and it be just this really epic thing, I would wait. Yeah, I would wait. I think our girls' ages were actually the perfect ages because so they're 7, 9, and 11. And I would do even like, you know, 6, 8, or wait, no, 8.
We get
10,
the point.
12. Like I think that's
school
a really
age, young school age.
I think that's a really great age because they are able to hang, but you know, they're not too old for some of the Disney stuff. Yeah. Definitely our girls were like, they weren't as into, like we ended up doing dinner at Beast's Castle in Magic Kingdom. So they have, you know, Cinderella's castle, but now they've opened up Beast Castle. And, our oldest daughter, like she was like into it ish,
Yeah.
she was like a little too old for it, but also appreciated it. And I think that was really cool.
Well,
So,
that actually leads us into takeaway number 3 on the whole takeaway we had regarding Disney World versus Universal, because people will ask, what should you do, Disney or Universal? Our takeaway was that basically it comes down to the movies that you and your kids like, because we like Disney growing up for us, like is like it.
it was,
And Universal was kind of more new and up and coming, and it was kind of more, just felt more teenage oriented until Harry Potter came along. Because when we were growing up, just like Disney had all the cartoon movies, all the movies we grew up with, Cinderella and Little Mermaid and, Hunchback of Notre Dame. I'm just like, all of them that you can think of, Disney movies. And, but our girls, a lot of those movies, like our girls, that just doesn't resonate with them. And it's like they grew up in a different era of movies. And all those newer Disney movies like Frozen or whatever, like they're not always real strong in like Magic Kingdom. They might be more strong in like Epcot or some other centers. They kind of spread out the movie love throughout the parks. And so Magic Kingdom, which is like everybody wants to go to Magic Kingdom because it's got the big castle. But even then it was just like, I don't know, it just felt
our
like
girls
it
are
wasn't
not
as
into
significant.
Disney princesses.
Yeah,
That's what you're
exactly.
trying to say.
Yeah.
And I think at Universal, no, they do have DreamWorks. So in terms of younger oriented movies,
No,
they have,
DreamWorks is not Disney. You're thinking
it's
of
Universal. I said
Oh, I'm
Universal.
sorry.
Yeah, I said
Oh, yeah,
Universal. So that would be like Trolls, How to Train Your Dragon, which
Yeah,
is that
exactly.
epic universe. Actually, movies that our girls are a little bit more into. They are just more into the action and all of that.
Yeah.
And so when we went through all the different parks with the girls and kind of talked through all the different rides, it became very clear unanimously our girls were much more interested in Universal
Yeah.
than they were Disney.
And
And so that shifted the way that we went about our trip,
Right.
where we realized, okay, we actually do want to do all 3 Universal parks and maybe we had to kind of pick and choose then with the Disney parks that we were able to do.
Definitely. And I feel like Harry Potter was like a big driver of that
time.
whole thing. Like
Yeah.
if you're not really into Harry Potter, it's like go Disney all the way.
For sure.
And now the one thing Disney had was Star Wars.
Yeah.
That
was our
Hollywood
favorite,
Studios.
actually.
And that was probably the Harry Potter stuff is cool, but the Star Wars world at Disney Hollywood Studios is off the chain.
It was amazing.
Now, we also like, our girls are really into animals. Animal Kingdom is a cool place, but we've been to a lot of good zoos. I've been to Animal Kingdom a lot. It was like, we knew that wasn't
they
going to be a
wouldn't
super
be.
unique experience.
Right.
But a lot of parents that go like with youngers back to that age of debate, they go like Animal Kingdom is like a big deal.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's cool stuff at Animal Kingdom too, newer rides like based on Avatar and whatnot. But anyway, like when you're trying to decide of what parks to go to, you should just research all the parks, meaning the individual Disney parks and the individual Universal parks, and think about the movies that y'all are into. Because really, like, that's what, that's really what these parks are about. Like, some people will be like, well, I don't really like roller coasters. Well, like, these parks aren't about roller coasters as much as they are being immersed in just like movies that you care about. So anyway, but that was a big takeaway. We could kind of see of like Disney, it almost feels like it's losing its luster with younger generation, and maybe Universal's kind of like on the up and up because they are just like in steep competition. But that's just kind of like,
and Universal had Super Mario.
Super Mario's a big deal.
Which was a big deal.
Or that's technically Super Nintendo World.
Okay.
But anyway, that's just our takeaway. That may be completely false. Disney's still like, has the most people visiting,
No doubt.
way more than Universal, but Universal's growing a lot. Anyway, takeaway number 4. These trips are very expensive and take a lot of planning, right? I think we learned that firsthand. Like, I don't think we quite really knew, just like, dude, there is so, like, you think, like, you get online, you're like booking tickets, you're like, okay, this is kind of like, normal theme park. But it's just all the things that come attached to it and all the experiences you might want to add on, the food, your accommodations, of course, your flight, your travel. I mean, it gets really expensive. So I'm glad that we had planned far out. Wouldn't you say?
Definitely plan far out for sure. plan way more money than you think you will need because you'll end up spending a lot of money. And I think the other thing I'll say, number 5, and I will talk about this, you really need a skilled coordinator. You need someone who is willing and able to do the deep dive. You need someone who's going to know all the parks in and out, who are going to know all the rides, that are going to know which rides have the longest wait times, which rides you want to hit first, which rides don't matter as much. Like, you need at least one person to do that. You will not enjoy it if you just kind of wing it and show up and just like kind of walk around the parks. In my opinion, you're going to end up kind of being like, oh, like, okay, where do we go? And what should we do? And what do we want to prioritize? You'll end up honestly just kind of like walking around, maybe hitting a ride, maybe 2, because the wait times are so long. And so anyway, I think that thankfully Ben is that person. I've shared on social media, at least, his like crazy Google Doc that he had that was incredibly organized. And I was like, this is literally the picture of Ben's brain. This is like exactly how Ben's brain works. And I'm so grateful for it. And like just looking at it stresses me out so bad. You know, it was like, I could never go this deep on this. And so anyway, just have someone that's ready to go on the deep dive about all of the things with all the parks.
Yeah. Our yard is getting treated right now. So you might hear a motorized thing driving around. Not a big deal. Anyway, so part of this trip is that we went with your parents, and that's one of the takeaways too, is like, I really recommend that, because when you have somebody with you, like, you just have help with your little kids.
Yeah.
And even though ours weren't little, they were older, it was just like, just having your parents there. And I think going with another family, like whatever you have to arrange, like it just kind of like, it just made it a little more fun.
Yeah, it was really great.
Kind of share the load.
And my parents, I just have to dote on them just for like 2 seconds. They did amazing.
Yeah.
They hung with us so much. They did all the really crazy roller coasters with Ben and Journey. Me and my younger 2 were not interested in all the crazy roller coasters, but my mom and dad, they went for it. And I was like super impressed with that. And we had a blast with them. Honestly, it was such a great trip and wouldn't have been as enjoyable, I think, without them.
Yeah.
So.
But on that, so we had like an arrangement that like they were going to help us financially as long as they don't have to do any coordinating and planning. And I was like, deal.
Like, that sounds great.
I took that to heart,
Yeah.
and I absolutely did my very best. We had a flexible structure. Like we had plenty of opportunities to kind of flex and flow. But I mean, there were so many things that I learned when I was researching. I was just like, dude, if I didn't know this, like that could have been it could have absolutely kind of like devastated that particular day at that park or whatever. Yeah. Or there were just so many cool things I learned about that you wouldn't learn about if you just wing it and you just walk into the park. Like, you can totally do that. But if you want to extract like the most value out of your experience, because you're spending all that money, like, you need to do your homework. And that leads me to one of the takeaways, which is YouTube is your friend. There are so many amazing Disney creators out there, and there's like, that's literally all they do every day is like go to Disney World and like make
talk
videos
about how to do it. Yeah.
And that's what I learned. I mean, and then like I watched a lot of the rides, which was kind of like disappointing because some of them, you know, they were like spoiler alerts, but it helped me know what our girls could ride.
Yeah.
Because they all had different tastes and
different tolerance levels. Intensity. There
were a couple that we
regretted doing with them.
kind of forced them to, but
is it childhood though without being forced on a ride that absolutely like petrifies you?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly. And some of them were like so classic. And I know like when they're older, they're going to be like, yeah, I rode that. Yeah.
That was so cool.
It'll be
like big brownie points.
Yeah. I've actually had that experience multiple times because we like going to theme parks where like a kid is like kind of petrified after that ride, but then later they're like,
that was really cool.
Actually, that was really fun. I want to do that again.
The other thing you used a lot was ChatGPT. I've heard that a lot, that people will like input what they want and ChatGPT will help them come up with an itinerary and just like different tips and stuff.
That did help some.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did have a very long conversation going, ongoing conversation going with ChatGPT about our different park strategies. So that was takeaway 5. You need a skilled coordinator. Takeaway 6. YouTube is your friend. Takeaway 7. It's good to go with grandparents or another family. Kind of levels out everybody's mood as well. And then the takeaway number 8, we've kind of already hit this of just like, we don't necessarily recommend our itinerary.
Unless you've got, I mean, our girls hung pretty well with it. It overall was okay, but I mean, we would come home like, I felt like
so exhausted,
dead inside.
Yeah.
It was just like, I think too, for you introverts out there or extrovert introverts like myself, I wanted to crawl in a hole and like not speak to anyone after this trip because it's just there's just so much noise and so many people, and it's just you're kind of just going and going and going and going. And I definitely toward the end of the trip, especially, I was like done. You know, I enjoyed it. It wasn't that I didn't enjoy it. I did, but it was really stretching for me, like socially. And so that's something just to know. And with the itinerary, again, going back to like, I think if we were to redo it or to do it over, maybe we would do fewer parks and like go deeper in the parks, would you say?
Well, I think, to be honest, and this kind of wraps up that whole Disney versus Universal debate. I think honestly, 2 trips is the way to go. I think if you do a week at Disney World when your kids are on the youngish side of things, like still old enough that you're not melting down every 5 seconds, do Disney World, because it is just a little more. I mean, there is good stuff at Universal, especially Islands of Adventure for younger kids, but Disney like really capitalizes on that. And then wait like 5-10 years and do a really cool Universal trip, because there is stuff for little kids at Universal, but when when they're older, you're really going to enjoy Universal more, in my opinion. But
there were a lot of things at Universal we didn't even do because like at Epic Universe, there's this whole like scary, it's like the haunted
dark universe.
Yeah. And like, we didn't even do that because we knew like our girls would not be, especially our 2 youngers would have been super scared.
Yeah.
And so, but both Ben and I were like, oh man, that would have been really cool. And if our kids had been older, we would have been able to probably do it.
Yeah.
So anyway,
so that would be my recommendation. And back on the whole resort versus Verbo thing, one thing we learned is like we started running into a lot of the perks that resort people had that we didn't. And that's another thing you could think about is like, if you go to Disney, you stay in the resort, you get a lot of perks with that, like express passes, like we're going to talk about later, and other things. And it's like, do Disney. And then later on, stay at a Universal resort, do Universal. The biggest downside to staying in the resort is it's just basically like a hotel room versus going to a Verbo or even like a timeshare. We stayed at a timeshare. We had so much space, and that was really nice.
You won't be able to, like we saved a lot of money by packing our lunches and by eating. We actually ate quite a bit I did like a big grocery pickup at Walmart. And that actually saved a ton of money on the food side, which was really helpful. And if you're in a resort, it's kind of like you got to eat. I mean, you're going to be spending a lot of money on food every day, that way. So it is kind of like you gotta do the math on it and figure out what's the best option.
But you're right about like doing both was really intense. I mean, even from a research end, it's like I had to know Disney in and out. I had to know Universal in and out. I mean, it was just like a lot. And there's the way they run things is different in both of those parks for sure.
For sure.
And there's also a lot of cool other parks in Orlando now. They got Legoland.
We were really looking at SeaWorld.
SeaWorld is really cool. And now SeaWorld is interesting because it's like rebranded as like the roller coaster park of Orlando. I mean, there's a way more roller coasters there than Disney and Universal. Not just like the ocean stuff. There's really cool water parks that are amazing for both Universal and Disney and like other companies in Orlando. So you can kind of choose your own adventure for sure. But trying to do it all in 1 week.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
We did it. It worked. I'm glad we did it. But man, we were exhausted.
Absolutely
every single day.
Absolutely exhausted.
I would just say another takeaway we talked a lot about was how we were surprised as how much there was to do that wasn't just rides.
Yeah.
I mean, That really surprised me, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and I think, you know, a lot of people will compare it to maybe like a local, like we have a really popular local place called Silver Dollar City, and it's pretty immersive, and it's like the whole Ozarks panning for gold kind of like turn of the century like vibes, and it's cool. But when you go to Disney, or especially when you go to Orlando, I feel like Universal, even in some ways more so, it's like you're like totally immersed in a world and the rides and just there's just so much more than just roller coasters. It's like I mean, the shows were so awesome.
Yeah.
Like in both parks. I would say Universal shows were a little bit better in my personal opinion.
They were amazing.
Definitely better like quality production. But in it's just even just that was so fun. And so anyway, I think for me and for our two youngers who don't really love big roller coasters, we actually had a blast, and we did a whole lot just around the parks, and just really enjoyed just kind of walking around.
Yeah. It's a vibe.
It is
like
a
those
vibe.
parks are a vibe. You're not just there.
The Harry Potter worlds are amazing.
They're
Let me
crazy
also
awesome.
just say that. Like if you are at all into Harry Potter, you have to go
So
see
legit.
all three of the. Now I will say Epic Universe, just so you know, is based off of, we believe, Fantastic Beasts, which we have not actually seen or read before. So that was a little bit of a downside. I didn't quite realize that. And so if you are planning on going to Epic Universe for the Harry Potter stuff, definitely watch Fantastic Beasts so you can appreciate it.
Yeah, and
But the other two parks with Diagon Alley, which Diagon Alley I think was my favorite. But then, you know, they had Hogwarts. I mean, it was just so cool.
man, and the Super Nintendo World at Epic Universe.
That was amazing.
So Epic Universe is really cool, y'all. If you haven't heard about it, it's the most cutting edge of all the parks. I mean, it's like there's games on your phone and the apps that are like interactive with stuff like in the park that you can unlock points, and I mean it's there, especially if you like lived in Orlando, like you could go back there and just like do a lot of stuff.
I was amazed at just the landscape, like all of the I mean, when you walk into Super Nintendo World, it's like it looks 3D.
Yeah.
And I mean, just the way they did it was so cool. How to Train Your Dragon, I loved that as well.
Yeah.
Our girls are really into that, and that whole world was really, really cool too.
The How to Train Your Dragon show was unbelievable.
Amazing.
The Fantastic Beasts show was unbelievable.
So good.
I would just say one of the last takeaways would be, well, before I get to that last takeaway, what do you think was your favorite world out of like all the Disney worlds, little like sections, you know, and
In
Universal?
just Disney or Universal or both, between all of them?
Between all of them.
It's a really, really tough choice between Star Wars,
Which is at Hollywood Studios.
and then the Diagon Alley, which was at Universal.
OG, Universal.
I mean,
I agree.
Those two, in my opinion, maybe because I just like those two franchises a lot, Star Wars and Harry Potter. It was my favorite ride was actually at the Star Wars
Definitely.
world. For sure. Rise of Resistance
We're in sync on that.
was like absolute. It's speechless, like mind blowing, amazing.
Well, and we had the
So good.
privilege of doing that, and then right off the heels of that, we did the brand new Universal ride, Ministry of Magic at Epic Universe, which is like a 3-hour wait. I mean, it's crazy, and we both liked Rise of Resistance and Star
liked it
Wars
better.
more. I
We
mean,
did.
the Harry Potter one is really really cool, but it uses more screens and like motion simulation that honestly just makes me a little nauseated. That's just me personally.
Yeah,
if you
I
don't
didn't
get
enjoy it.
nauseated with that kind of stuff,
You might
then you'll love it. And honestly, most Universal uses motion simulation more than Disney, I felt, in general.
for sure. But but you wouldn't appreciate either if you're not into either one of those movies.
Definitely.
So
Right.
this is us being geeks.
I
and
think,
really
well, and that
liking-
was our struggle. It's like we both
Yeah.
love Star Wars. We both love Harry Potter. It's just like,
What
we
do
just got to do both.
Yeah, we do.
You
Yeah.
know, and yeah.
But man, yeah, Rise of Resistance was like, I got off. Actually, everyone in our family, it was their favorite.
Yeah.
Even Josie, who's almost 7.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just that good. So good.
Okay. The last takeaway is that express passes, totally worth it. If you are someone you don't want to be going to Disney like all the time, like if this is like you're once in a lifetime or twice in a lifetime, like it's so expensive, but like to just go all out. It's so expensive to buy the top
very
tier
expensive.
express passes.
We recognize this.
For both Disney and Universal, but like especially you got like one day there.
Just to say,
go
like,
for it.
just that one Harry Potter ride without the express pass is a 3-hour wait.
Yeah.
You will literally spend your entire day
it's
doing
crazy.
one ride, maybe
Yeah.
two. And that with the express pass, you're just able to cut the line. And I know, it's crazy expensive. And we just budgeted for it. Like that was why
Right.
we waited so long to go, is because, yeah.
But like at Universal, you get express passes if you stay at the resort. So
true.
that you got to look into the resort, like the perks you get. But is if staying there more expensive with food and whatnot, is it a wash?
you gotta,
Who knows?
Yeah, you got to
But
do the math on that.
just know, like either way, you're spending a fortune. And you could like take your family to Europe for like
It
what
really,
you're spending for that.
It was absolutely nuts.
But they are like just very unique, once in a lifetime type experiences. Now, a little bonus tip I'll put at the end is Park Hopper. I don't know how.
Is that Disney?
Let's have both.
Oh, okay.
You could buy an extra fee to get Park Hopper, and you could go do multiple parks in one day. I don't know who in the world would have the time to do that. It blows my mind.
No.
So maybe
In our personal opinion, that's not worth it.
Yeah. The one thing that's cool about Park Hopper at Universal is you can take the Hogwarts Express train between the parks.
We didn't do
But
that.
like that's not worth spending extra money just for that. I mean, we had a whole day at each park. There was still so much we didn't do. So anyway, this is not a travel vlog, but we want to share our experience. If you ever just have questions about planning, I love nerding out on that stuff.
That's true. Ben's your guy. He knows pretty much everything about Disney and Universal now. And yeah, anyway, it was a great trip. I'm so glad we did it.
Yeah.
I have no regrets except for like how intense it was. I have a few regrets about that, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that again. Like, I don't know if I want to repeat that trip. And so I'm glad that we did all that we did.
Yeah.
Even though it was intense. And so anyway.
So if you've got littles and you're tempted, you're just like, you're chomping at the bit to go.
Listen.
Try to wait, or at least bring helpers with you.
Yes.
Or you probably were good at it.
Yeah, it's true.
All right. Signing off. Talk to you later.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening today. It would mean so much to us if you left a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you heard this.
And let us know your thoughts on today's episode by leaving a comment on Spotify or YouTube, where you can also watch these episodes.